Okay, guys, so we're going to have a look at how to answer question B. This is paper 2, the Russia. We've had a look at question A, the 6 marker, which is identifying two key features. Question B, it starts to look at sources. Okay, so you will be given two sources to use for this question. In those sources, you're going to need to cross-reference them. Okay, and you're going to look at in terms of how, to what extent does one of the sources, okay, support the other. Okay, and at the end, you are going to have to come up with a judgment as to either it does support it or it doesn't support it, or maybe somewhere in the middle. But for you to actually explain, as with all judgments, it is your opinion. There is no right or wrong answer here, as long as you explain it correctly. So the two sources you'll get, there'll be some similarities between them, but there will also be some differences. And that's the key part of this question. When answering this, you have to talk about how the sources are similar or how they support each other, but you also must talk about how they challenge each other or how they are different to each other. And in doing that, you must explicitly quote from the source. So you're picking extracts out, parts of the source out, you're copying and pasting it into your answer to support how the two sources either support themselves or they challenge each other. Okay, so let's have a look a bit at the structure of this. There is 3 paragraphs that you need to put together in total. The first one looks at obviously how they support each other. I want to see that word support in that paragraph at least once. Okay, it should be in there a couple times. You'll open the paragraph simply stating how you feel that they support each other, and then you go into more explicitly giving evidence to show this by explicitly quoting the source from each of the sources given. Okay, you will then do the same for paragraph 2. Now we're looking in terms of challenge. Again, I want to see that word challenge in there. Okay, use the sentence starters that have been given to you. Okay, so again, source B challenges source A because, okay, we're opening with very short sort of statement. This can be seen as source B states, however, source A states. Okay, so you're giving how the 2 points challenge each other. Finally, you're going to finish with a judgment. Okay, do you feel the sources support each other or not? Or to what degree do you feel they support or challenge each other? Okay, let's have a look at one of these questions and look at the sort of sources that you will get with this. This is a sort of question that you will get. So how far does the source A support the evidence of source B about Rasputin's influence in Russia? Okay, so the key thing we're picking out of that sort of sentence is influence. So we're looking at what was Rasputin's influence. Did he have an influence in Russia or didn't he? Okay, we've given 2 different sources here. One of the sources is written by the Tsarini, okay, and written to Tsar Nicholas, who's on the front line. The other one was written by an aristocrat who helped murder Rasputin. Okay, so based on our knowledge and understanding of Rasputin so far, we can probably gather that these 2 sources are going to be a little bit different to each other and certainly going to have different opinions. However, we must remember in the question we're going to see, do they support each other or don't they? And we must reflect that back on the question, which is its influence on Russia. Okay, so let's what I'm going to ask you guys to do is if you pause this video for a second, I want you to have a read of both of the sources. Okay, and I want you to mentally think, how do they support each other, okay, in regards to influence, and how do they challenge each other, okay, in regard to Rasputin's influence? Okay, so press the pause button and have a read now. Okay, great. So hopefully you've had a read of those now, a read through those. Let's have a look at how you would actually then answer this. Okay, so again, my first answer would be based around support. Okay, so again, source A supports. Okay, we're using that keyword, that term straight away. Source B, because both show clear examples of how influential he or Rasputin was in Russia at this time. Okay, I think we can sort of safely say he did have a huge influence on a lot of people, but in very, very different ways. Okay, we can see that in source A because it talks about Rasputin's influence over the Tsarini, in that he was offering her military advice to pass on to the Tsar when he states he begs you to order that we should advance to Riga. Okay, so that's him offering his advice. He's having an influence. Okay. Similarly, source B points out again Rasputin had absolute power in court. Okay, so even though they have very different views of Rasputin, both are showing that they do have quite significant influence, or he has quite significant influence on Russia at that time. Source, we then could look at in terms of how they challenge each other. Okay, so again, that word challenge is there straight away. They challenge each other because of their difference in the way Rasputin is perceived by the Tsar and the Tsarini and those of other high-ranking positions. Okay, so this is sort of where we're kind of leading on. Obviously, the Tsarini perceives him as a friend, and it states in here a message from a friend. Okay, and that's how he's described. However, in the source written by the aristocrat, okay, he actually describes him as a monster. Okay, this was the condition of affairs when we decided to kill the monster. Okay, that is showing that there is a very much a difference in terms of his influence. One is saying he's coming across as a friend, he's influencing us in a positive way. The other one's saying he's influencing us in a very negative way. He is a monster. Okay. In general, my opinion on this, okay, is that actually both sources actually do show that Rasputin did have a quite significant influence on Russia. Okay, they're very different in terms of how they show this, but both sources do come out and show that he does have an influence. So I would actually say that source A does actually support source B in this case. All right, so 3 paragraphs, one on support, one on challenge, one on a finishing on a judgment. Okay, so what we're going to get you guys to do now is have a go at a question yourself. All right, so actually before we do that, let's just have a quick look at the mark scheme. So what we want you to get you up here is a level 3. Okay, so let's have a look. Answers provide an explained evaluation of the extent of support. Okay, so we've sort of said, yes, you know, there was a great amount of support. However, you know, that varied in terms of how people perceived it. Some thought it was positive, some thought it was negative. We have cross-reference, okay, we've made comparisons, and we've used supported reasoning for this, okay? So based on what we've kind of got there, we're looking at sort of definitely in the top of the mark bands here, okay? So that's kind of what we're kind of aiming for. So what we're going to get you to do is have a go at this question. Okay, how far does source I support the evidence of source J about the role of the army in the February Revolution? Okay, so you've got 2 sources here. Okay, we want you to answer this on a Google Doc, and you're going to upload this answer using the structure and using this presentation, which will load up to the Google Classroom as well. You're going to upload this to the assignment in the Google Classroom. If you've got any questions, let us know.